Right then, friends, we are back inside the building. It's been a while, and obviously it's taken a while to try and find a way that we can actually crack on and do this again, but we are back on Between the Posts. We do have Duke, Sky and Pabs in the building. How are we doing, lads? We all good?
Yeah.
All good, mate. How about yourself?
Yeah, not bad, man. Not bad. Just cracking on, staying busy. Trying to keep up to date with sporting stuff, but it's been an unusual few weeks, obviously, with
It's not hard
stuff.
to keep up to date with it, though, is it? Because there's not much going on.
Yeah, that's the thing. I have to look at one post a day. I don't know what I'm complaining about.
I was watching. I turned on Sky Sports News like the first time in about 6 weeks the other day, and they were showing highlights from like the Belarus League or something like that. And
yeah, Belarus. I think Belarus is the only one that's been ploughing through. I think for this entire time.
That's amazing.
It was literally on their headline. On the headline ticker, it was like, whatever team scored this goal, and showing the highlights from it.
yeah. At one point, I think it was Belarus and Nicaragua holding it down for world football.
Nicaragua as well.
Yeah. So shouts to them too.
Really like to hear it. So, obviously, we've seen the kind of big news over the last few days is very much that, obviously, the Premier League's back, the German League is back. Have we seen any other European leagues that have said they're going back into action?
Spain are starting again.
Yes, yeah. Spain, that's back on track. But I think is the date, have they got a fixed date, or is it still subject to change?
Sometime in June, I think. Like the 12th or 14th of June, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a weird one, because I don't know what... Everyone started doing that, but France have already cancelled their season, haven't they?
Well, this is the thing, yeah, because so they're going to be... Apparently, what I heard with them is they had a huge TV deal lined up for starting next season. Okay. So they really didn't want to jeopardise that in any way, shape or form and hinder that start date. So they sort of wrapped it up early this year with the view to start bang on time. But
they have loads of like legal proceedings, like sues and court stuff, haven't they, from clubs that are like...
Yeah, I think they're going to get that.
We should have been here. We should have done this.
The problem is with that stuff, though. I think like any sort of litigation, you can just drag it out for years and years.
Yeah.
Like there was something recently in Brazil that got settled after 30 years. So I think if they're going to go down that route, they're not going to see much luck in the short-term future. But no, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens if France are all ready to go on August or whatever, and Germany's more or less ready to go, but England hasn't completed, Spain hasn't completed, whoever else. I just don't know how they're going to keep up with that synchronicity,
I don't know, man. I don't know. And also, like, is there any French teams left in the Champions League?
Yeah, I presume Paris still are.
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, that would be interesting as well. Yes, I think they are. I saw someone tweet the other day they're thinking about organising some pre-season friendlies almost. Yeah, they're going to be completely out of sorts otherwise.
Yeah, that's it. Because
that is a madness to think about. How unfit a team's going to be? Because obviously we've seen teams going back, but there's a level of fitness that you can only get from playing games.
Yeah, well, I think Germany they've introduced 5 substitutions to try and ease them into it and combat that in some way, and I think that's a good idea. We're going to have to do something along the lines.
We were talking about doing something like that, weren't we?
Yeah, I mean the problem is looking at it from a cynical point of view, you're 1-0 up with a few minutes to go, and you just do 4 substitutions in quick succession. So
yeah,
it's always that.
Yeah,
exactly. So no, I think it's going to be tough no matter what on the players coming back after. You never have this long off as a footballer, do you?
Literally never.
Do you know what? It feels a bit to me like it's a new season.
Yeah. Well, I saw someone say the other day, I completely agree. I wouldn't be mad from an Arsenal fan's perspective. I know it's not good to say, but if you use this as just a framework for next season, because what can we, if there's no cup competitions and we're wherever in the league, what are we doing?
Yeah, exactly.
Basically to play it out.
All run of form is gone. So because for instance, Spurs were like on an awful run of form before it stopped. I don't think we won for like 6 games or something like that. Or everyone like Kane, Sissoko, Bergwijn, who else? Like all players out injured. Son, they're all back. All fit. So I'm kind of thinking like Mourinho is just going to go, guys, got 9 games left. Treat it as a new season. Treat it as a 9-game league. Just go for it. Pre-season, this is what we're going to do for these 9 games. Bang, bang, bang.
It's the interesting thing to look at as well is, as you're saying about injuries, there are a lot of the bigger teams have quite high-profile injuries. Obviously, I'm obviously going to say United here because with no Rashford and Pogba out at the same time, to have those two injured. I don't know if I don't think they'll be back in time. I know they're on the mend. I think Pogba's back in training. I don't think Rashford's back in training yet. But to have this kind of gap, shall we say, of time where they can kind of actually get back to fitness and there not be any kind of loss of points or whatever. It means if you, and a team like United, who were starting to find good form before the before everything shut off, if you then re-inject like players of a higher quality back into the squad as well, I mean, it's gonna play havoc. It sounds weird, but almost like the continuity of the league.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think it's that, and how is that going to damage the integrity of this season long term? You know, I mean, what do you guys think about this asterisk argument? Will you view it as a fair victory for Liverpool?
If they play all the games, then yeah, I don't have an issue if they play all the games. But if they don't play all the games, then no.
Yeah, I think it's pure speculation at this point because we don't know. Even the case numbers are dropping, raising, no matter who you where you look. So I think it's so up in the air at the moment. We're just gonna have to wait and see how the situation plays out. I think as far as the immediate comeback, though, I think it's quite good that Sky have said that 25 games are going to be free to air on one of their channels called Pick. It's
never heard of it.
Sky.
Never, no.
It's owned by Sky. I assume they're just doing that. So So
and then we're going to game the BBC as well, right? For the first time since like '87 or something.
Yeah, I saw that. This is like games on BBC. Yeah. I think my dad was telling me this. That it's been like 18 years or something like that since Premier League game. There's been a Premier League game on BBC. Maybe even longer.
It was '87. So I think it's just before the Prem started. The actual PL started.
So there's never been a Premier League game on BBC.
No, it started off with Sky. Sky had it from the start. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Well, yeah, Sky, and then the money they brought into it is just a huge part of where the Premier League is now, if not the main part. So, no, it's going to be interesting. It's good of them that they are doing 25 free-to-air games. I think it's out of 64, so there'll be 39 that are obviously still subscription.
Yeah, and also like the amount of games a day is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that the fixture congestion is going to be very interesting as well. Again, going back to the fitness, that will definitely play into it. But I just wanted to say, Everton versus Liverpool, they're giving up for free on the opening weekend back. So
is that
the opening weekend game?
Yeah, it's the opening weekend game. It's not where they can win it. So they're actually thinking of moving up to 6 fixtures at the moment. So those fixtures are City versus Liverpool, City versus Newcastle, United against Sheffield, Newcastle Liverpool, Everton Liverpool, and the 6th one is any match in which Liverpool can potentially secure the title. This is as far as I can understand it. This is under advice from local police forces.
So they're moving it from the stadium because they're playing games at home and away, aren't they?
Yeah. So as far as I understand,
those ones are neutral venues.
Yeah. So apart from those 6 games, all games will be played at the original venue. So things like the Merseyside derby, you can understand. Liverpool City, you can understand why that's been moved.
Because I saw that, right? But the thing I couldn't understand is that when they're like, we're going to move these games to neutral venues, they're all northern teams.
Yeah.
And we've got a North London derby coming up. There's still one of those to do, and they're like, yeah, that's fine.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's that's they've neglected to mention that, so I assume that's going ahead as usual. But
I think more than anything as well, just to say, I think more than anything, their primary concern is just getting the games played, and the actual and I think the sort of almost like the in-game ethics of how they do it haven't, from the looks of things, it doesn't look like that's been near the top of the priorities. It's more been how can we get the games done regardless of kind of like home away advantage, regardless of distance traveling and all those things there. It doesn't seem like much as, I mean, there is only so much you can plan into on that side though.
Yeah, as you say about home advantage, I mean, we'll discuss Bundesliga shortly, but I think it's quite interesting to note only 19% of home teams have won their matches so far, which is a 25% decrease from usual statistics.
Wow, I haven't watched any of the Bundesliga. I'd say.
No, I've watched a few games. At first, it does feel a bit like a practice match. Yeah. But you sort of get into it after a while. I think the players sort of work themselves into it. But going back to the Sky thing as well, that sort of ties into this. They said they're going to launch, quote, innovative new features to give viewers a more immersive experience. Now, do you think one of those? Yeah, do you think one of those features might be imported crowd noise by any chance?
Possibly. It could
be like press red to hear whatever crowd.
Can you choose where the crowd noise is from?
Well, this is the problem, because how are you going to increase the noise when they fall?
I want golf or like.
They'll just take like recordings from previous matches.
Yeah, but you would have thought like there might be some
like the Emirates Island.
I should have seen that one coming.
Shots fired.
Yeah, that's it. But no, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, how they sort of incorporate this new feature.
I reckon there's going to be.
The ones in Germany where they're getting like the screens and putting people's faces on them and like cardboard cutouts and stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but they had a load of them as well. I think there was like 30-odd thousand that had sent their pictures in. So no, that's definitely a way to go. So
I think the maddest thing about it is that if they do roll out the crowd noise, there's going to be some work experience kid in an office somewhere having to like press one of 6 buttons, and it's either like general crowd noise, like heightened tension crowd noise, away goal, and then the scoring. Imagine if he like goes out for a coffee or something and comes and misses 2 goals, and there's just no crowd reaction when the goals go in. And as well as that, you also there's so many different elements of noise that you actually have to think about when it comes to when it comes to actually the sound and the part a crowd plays in a professional football game. Now you have to think there's the chance, there's also the kind of general volume going up at certain points in the game. Like obviously at the start it's going to be a bit louder, it'll dip towards the middle of a thing. When a team's just scored, it will get louder. There's a lot of different elements there to monitor, and I think realistically if they want to do it right, if they want to do it and it works, they have to do it right. And I think actually it's not just a case of importing a file. There's like a lot of live automation that has to take place for it to actually work realistically.
Like when you're losing 4-0 and half the stadium's gone home.
Yeah, and realistically though, that sort of weird reverb you get in half-empty stadiums, you have to kind of build that. Realistically, you have to kind of build that in if they want it to work properly anyway. But yeah, obviously we were talking about the cutouts in Germany. That anyone could do that, couldn't they?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, don't see why not. You just got to have access to a lot of cardboard and a printer, I guess. Shouldn't be too difficult to put together.
I mean, it is quite mad to see. Like in regards to the games as well. Like as you were saying earlier, it does feel a little bit like a practice game, like a warm-up game, more than like a training game. A lot of the time, but it's weird because the players don't. It looks the same. It is literally as though just the sound's the issue.
Yeah, I mean the players sort of, as I said, work themselves into it. It starts off a bit hesitant, they're a bit tentative, and then after 5, 10, 15 minutes, they sort of get themselves going. But it's been interesting listening to the German ones. Obviously, you don't understand the word of German. Well, actually, maybe one word, Dankeschön. But after that, it's my German's very limited. So hearing what they've been saying, obviously, that's going to be very interesting when it comes to the Premier League. I think
going back to swearing,
exactly. Going back to the broadcasters and the problems that they have to try and deal with, that's going to be interesting to see how they combat that.
I mean, we were looking at it as well, I think, just beforehand about how many people have to be in a stadium to run a professional game of football. Like, what was it up at like 150 people have to be there?
I think it was something like that, wasn't it?
I think it was 120 something.
120, and that includes all of the like broadcast people. That includes the medical teams. There's like 12
boys, everything.
There's like 12 officials, isn't there as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You've got the third official.
Are they cutting out VAR? Or are they doing it now?
That's
no,
an interesting point.
VAR is still going.
It's still going ahead.
Yeah.
Because did they cut it out in Germany? I saw somewhere about something about them cutting it out. I'm sure.
No, I don't. I think.
No. Okay.
I'm sure I saw one in the game. Game I was watching the other day.
Again, though, how they can't surely cut out because it's been so impactful on the season so far. If they were to do like if you were to suddenly take out that element out, it basically means these 9 games are almost like playing in a completely different league for the last 9 games.
Because that was one of the things. I'm sure I saw it where they were saying that they couldn't get the social distancing right in the VAR rooms. They couldn't do it or something like that. But
really, that seems like an easily solvable problem. But
no, make the room bigger, get more screens,
more screens. So there's more to look at and more to get wrong.
Yeah,
very
controversial.
True.
That's where we're going. But yeah, I mean, sorry, Juki, you were going to.
I was going to say that would definitely severely impact the legitimacy of the 1920 season if you were to move VAR 3/4 of the way through. I think you have to keep it.
I think as well. I mean, obviously we've spoken a bit about player fitness as well, and obviously players coming back into the team. I mean, with Arsenal, do you know if who are the sort of injured players who are likely to now be available?
Probably be easier to name you who the fit players were at the point when we went out. I think the main ones I'll be looking forward to seeing back, or the main one in particular, is Kieran Tierney. That's someone who there was a lot of hype around. He showed a lot of promise in the few games that he did get to play for us, but unfortunately it just hasn't really worked out for him injury-wise. I mean, he's one of those players that such a young age, he's had so many injuries, and well, he's slotted right in at Arsenal.
Yeah. What about with? I mean, you said Bergwijn as well, didn't you, Pabs?
Bergwijn, Kane. Who else? Bergwijn, Kane, Son.
Like essentially your attack.
Well. Yeah, you lost your entire attack, didn't you?
Yeah.
So one by one, they're dropping like flies.
I mean, as well. Moving on with this, obviously, you do. If the leagues are coming back, do we have a rough idea of what's going to be happening with the Champions League, or has nothing been announced yet?
Nothing. I don't think it's been announced yet. I'm not sure.
Because it's all separate bodies, I think they're all sort of working together, but kind of doing their own thing as well. I mean, the UEFA and the individual nation representatives, like the FA.
I mean, they want to do it. They want to finish it, don't they? They said they're going to finish it.
Well, they set their deadline. The initial deadline was supposed to be, I think it was the 30th of June. They wanted all matches completed by. I mean, that must have gone out the window now well, certainly for us.
Yeah,
so,
but I'm sure I saw something yesterday that they said they're still going to do it, but they were thinking about moving the final from Istanbul for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know where to, but the Champions League final.
Yeah,
interesting. I mean, we were at the quarterfinals, or was it the second round for the Champions League?
Quarterfinals.
It was up to the quarterfinals. I mean, looking at that again, you also have to tie in obviously the Europa League as well. It's a lot of international travel for these games. Yeah, it's a lot of people going backward and forward. And it's going to be quite a madness. I mean, realistically, they can all, if you're in the Champions League, you can afford a private jet journey. Like, it's not like that. That much of a big thing. Normally, isn't it? Yeah, I think they normally do. Do Premier League teams normally fly on private planes?
I think so.
Yeah, they all. I'm pretty sure they all charter their own flights.
Yeah, I'm sure Spurs always fly out of like Luton, I think, or Southend.
The bigger ones definitely do, but if you were to ask me about Burnley or somewhere like that, I wouldn't be too sure, to be fair.
Yeah.
But just going back to the UEFA Champions League situation, UEFA, they are definitely considering moving it from Istanbul. It hasn't been confirmed yet. And they're looking to play all of the games. There's a revised fixture list set across August. So it's going to be completed after each season has finished.
Okay.
Interesting. I mean that sort of makes more sense, I'd say, rather than playing a game every 2 days, which is what it would have to be.
Yeah. So I assume it will fold into more like a tournament scenario.
Because some of the quarterfinals are finished, aren't they? And some aren't.
Yeah. I mean, this is the problem. So
yeah,
and
which
as
is
we
annoying
mentioned
because Spurs literally went out the day before they shut it down. I was like, oh,
yes, cool. Yeah, that's true. And I think Chelsea were just about to go out as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
So that would be interesting. So have you guys caught much of the Bundesliga as it's resumed?
I've seen a few of the highlights. I've been watching the games. Again, it's been weird to kind of properly get into. But it's been fun to just have football back more than anything else, because I've got bored of watching Sky Sports top 10 headers of 2003.
Yeah, some of the content has definitely grown a bit tedious.
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't really watched
we sat on YouTube doing this today.
Yeah, I've pretty much done nothing with football for the past 6 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. I've been glancing here and there, but it's again, I think much to be said with the players working themselves into the game. I think we're going to have to work ourselves back into the sport.
Yeah.
So
we were talking again about obviously, as you say, people getting back into it. I mean, we were speaking to Miles, who sometimes comes on the show as well, and he was saying, I just have no interest in football at the minute, which is weird, because the way it's kind of been promoted by obviously the Premier League, it's very much like, oh, football's back, oh my god, football's back, and a lot of people are just kind of like, oh, is it?
Yeah, I think people have just, as I say, found alternatives to do with their spare time, and
I wouldn't say fallen out of love with the game, but perhaps realised that their interests lie elsewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like,
and their priorities, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you've had bigger stuff on, and I've been like, yeah, cool, whatever, you know. And the fact that Spurs had an awful season before we even finished it.
I mean, obviously,
thank you for this break. Like,
the weirdest thing for me was, as a United fan who hates football near enough most of the time at the moment, it was into a period where United had started to pick up a bit of form, and it was like they were looking like a genuinely decent team for once, and then obviously it stops. Now I have literally no idea what to think about the team. I have no idea. My feelings have almost like it's like when you try and like cleanse your palate and then suddenly you don't remember how anything tastes. And now I don't remember how I feel about United. I don't remember.
Well, I can try.
You'll soon remember, mate.
Yeah, I was going to say I can refresh your memory a little bit. It was all going down the toilet till a man arrived on a plane from Lisbon, and then you saw quite a remarkable turnaround. And I think it's going to be interesting to see Pogba and Fernandes link up.
Yeah,
I mean, interesting if I take my Arsenal hat off, which is very difficult. It's going to be hard to watch.
I think the thing is if we're going to talk about United quickly, I think the interesting thing here is obviously is Pogba going to stay? I think this could be a period of time where these 9 games are realistically when that's actually going to be decided. It's going to be now because he's fit again, he can play, he's going to be realistically put back into the team. We're going to see
that's true. You've also got to think now with all this is how much he's going to go for, and are people going to pay it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll ever go for less than 100 mil. I don't think.
Exactly, and are people going to pay 100 mil for players now? Because all the clubs.
I was going to say that sort of leads us on nicely to transfers and how they are going to be impacted. So, do you think there will be much activity at all this summer?
There has to be, surely.
I think in terms of like fiscal purchases, I think there's going to be a lot of swaps. We're going to see a lot of swaps. We're going to see a lot of loans.
Yeah.
And I think the days of paying those kinds of sums, like 100 million sums, unless there's certain clubs where it's not going to affect. I can't see it affecting City too much.
No.
Potentially Newcastle if this thing goes through.
Yeah, we need to speak about Newcastle as well, actually, a bit later on.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
But then, even those clubs, if they're still playing by the FFP, then we don't know when clubs are going to be able to get any crowds in. Which I know that at the moment, like in recent times, the crowd revenue hasn't really meant much to clubs. It's kind of they make more of other things, but it's still
a healthy chunk.
Yeah, it's still a hefty bunch, and it still adds up to the financial fair play that they've got to add in. So, I don't really know what.
It's a good point. It's a good point, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect teams on that front and just day to day as well, because the loss of ticket revenue is huge, particularly for Premier League clubs.
It's the weirdest thing to kind of look at. You mentioned FFP there as well. Like, how is this period going to be treated under financial fair play? Because realistically, this period of time is going to be affecting clubs' income, and obviously they're going to have to declare how much they've made, how much they've lost of this, how much of this sort of like break in football is actually going to be put down as like if you understand what I mean. How much of it's actually going to be registered and sort of counted in regards to what clubs can spend?
Do you mean in terms of how much leeway clubs are going to be afforded?
No, as more as in how obviously because they have to declare how much the club has made at the end of the year, and that gives them the sort of bracket that they can work in with purchasing and how much they're allowed to spend. With this period of time, obviously a lot of clubs will have lost money. Most clubs will have lost a substantial amount of money. There are going to be Premier League clubs that realistically the amount they've lost because of this may actually put it down to the point where they can't afford a Premier League transfer by FFP.
I should think that would be factored in. That would have to be factored in. I think it's going to affect all businesses the same.
Yeah, I mean, like it's going to affect clubs. And I saw, what did I see? Something the other day said that Southampton have been really affected by it, to the point where they're going to have to sell like 3 or 4 players, like Danny Ings. Who's the other good player?
Ward-Prowse?
I was going to say Ward-Prowse.
Is he a player that will ever leave?
Pierre Højbjerg, who's been linked to
Højbjerg, he's a captain.
It was an article with that, but they were saying because Southampton have actually been quite hit badly by it, to balance the books, they might need to sell like Ings and him and a few others.
Well, yeah, some of the smaller clubs are definitely going to have to buck up their ideas in terms of other incentives, because it's going to be so difficult for them to keep hold of their star men.
Yeah.
And when they do inevitably go, to get any decent fee for them, because clubs are going to know the vulnerable position they're in.
Exactly. Got Daniel Levy offering them like £500,000.
Yeah.
Should we skip the conversation forward a little bit to Newcastle then? Like what we understand to be the case there. I mean, the deal's gone through, hasn't it?
It's not been signed off yet.
No, I think it's still being under review by the Premier League, and the fact that it's been, like, I've sensed unrest amongst the journalists. I mean, I'm not sure about this subject whatsoever, how long the procedures usually take, but from the articles I've seen being written, it's definitely dubious as to whether it's going to go through or not.
I mean, imagine being a Newcastle fan and now it not going through. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, I think after everything they've endured, they'll be like, well, of course this will happen.
Duh. Yeah. Like, why on earth did we get our hopes up?
Yeah. Stuck with Mike Ashley once again.
So first of all, what's your feelings towards it happening to Newcastle? And secondly, would you have it happen to your club? Or would you like it? Not that you'd have a say in it. I don't think Levy or the Glazers will be ringing you up. Sorry, boys.
Excuse me. The number's right there. I'll have you know. No, I'm joking.
But yeah, don't say that. It'll be everyone hounding you.
But yeah, I think if there was a club for it to happen to, I think either a West Ham or a Newcastle or someone like that, a kind of classic sort of Premier League team who've been around a while. They've always kind of had good players come through and then they've left. I think a club that has the fan base and has the stadium already is the perfect team for it to happen to.
Agreed. Yeah, as you said, a West Ham, a Newcastle, or a Leeds. There was talk of Leeds, something similar happening over there.
Do you know what? It is kind of. I was talking to someone the other day, and we were saying that if you were to buy a club, the best one would be Spurs, because they're kind of aiming up to sell it. You know, we've got all this. We've built over the past like 10 years. They've built it all up. Levy's built it all up. We've got brand new training, brand new stadium, and it's aiming to be. It feels like he's aiming to kind of get it to a point where he can sell it. You know. And you would have thought that around now would be the optimum time, or just before the pandemic would be the optimum time for it to happen. You know, we're in the Champions League, Mourinho's manager, kind of big stadium, it'd kind of that. But I don't know if it's.
Well, I actually thought that's what he was sort of angling for when he appointed Mourinho, because everything had fallen into place at that point. You had your star striker or your star player, you had your world-renowned manager.
Yeah,
you had
just the Champions League final.
Shiny new toilet bowl.
Yeah.
You've got all this stuff going for you. I think it was set up for a sale. And there was talk of Google. I think there's been talk of Amazon.
I think it will. When it does go, eventually, I think it will go to America, because we've got the NFL pitch.
Of course, yeah.
I think that was probably built in design.
Oh, how do you feel about a joint venture? It will be like the Tottenham Hotspurs.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
Pabs, give us your 100% honest opinion on how you feel about sharing a stadium with an NFL team and all the branding that goes with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind the NFL, mate, so I'm all right. But
what kind of state do they leave your toilets in now after their games? You go back and everything's missing and broken, and don't know.
Yeah, no, they're friendly, mate. All the NFL lot.
Oh, are they?
All the separate fans, they like mix and stuff. They don't have home and away ends.
Oh, I just see those. I see the tailgating outside. It looks kind of rowdy. So I can't say I've experienced the atmosphere myself.
No, they're all friendly, man. I've been to some NFL games. It's mad.
Ah, fair enough.
Yeah, they don't really get like rivalries somehow.
It's very weird. For some reason, that makes me not want to watch it.
Yeah, but I mean,
the
rivalry in the English football game is like tribalism at its absolute peak.
Yeah.
You don't get it many other places. Like, like a North London derby or something. If you had like a couple of Americans come over, they'd be like, "What is this, man?"
Yeah. But then again, and then take them to South America, go to Argentina, see River Plate or somewhere like that.
Yeah. That's the thing you can
that's even the level up.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, sorry, Pabs, with Newcastle, it's happening to Newcastle, or it may not be, but it looks like Newcastle are going to be the team it kind of happens to. Can you see Newcastle with the right transfers? Obviously, it's who's manager at Newcastle currently?
Steve Bruce.
Steve Bruce. I mean, it's looking like that's where Poch could go. That
would make sense.
It would make sense.
If Poch had money to spend, which realistically, if you are buying a Premier League club now who are in that position, the point is you're going to pump money into it and turn it into a top competing team, realistically. And it's been like 2, 3, 4. It's been about 6 years since a new club kind of was introduced. It seems to be in the UK that money will get pumped into a club at one point, and then sort of 6 years later they're in that position. And it seems like it could well be Newcastle that do that next.
The thing is that you can go to Newcastle and you can pump all the money you want in it, but it's still in Newcastle.
Yeah, you've still got to convince players to go live in North East England.
Go to Newcastle. It's not like them just going to like a shit team like West Ham for a big payday because they're still in London and they love it. They're like, oh yeah, we're in London, whatever. We can just chill. Like they're in Newcastle, so that's the. I mean, money might buy that extra bit, but I don't think you'll get like people dedicated. Get mercenaries and stuff, but I'm not sure you can get like, massive pay.
I think it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it and whether they go for the English market or the foreign market, because Newcastle have typically always gone abroad, places like France, and I wonder if that will continue or if they'll
they like to raid Spain as well. They do like to raid like.
I mean, I think they'll come in. If they get new owners, they'll come in, and if they get Poch, they'll want to make a statement, and they'll look at the players that are kind of at their kind of who are looking to leave. Like I think a prime one would be Gareth Bale. Wants to leave, too expensive for everyone. They want to come and make a statement. Bang, here's the money. Gareth Bale.
And I think
he's Welsh as well.
Coutinho, all those ones that are around Madrid that aren't really playing, like Coutinho's Barcelona, but like James, Isco maybe. I don't know. You kind of all those
they seem to be buying half of Brazil's youth team at the moment, so I think there's going to be a lot of competition for spaces there.
The interesting thing as well, kind of looking at it with if you were in a position at Newcastle, like, and you say we're given a budget of like 500 million, like who do you go for? Do you go for any Prem players?
I mean, they're talking about Harry Kane, but I think like someone was like, oh, he's got a really special relationship with Poch. I was like, but he's going to Newcastle.
That's interesting, actually.
That brings up the Newcastle. Would you go to Newcastle thing? Like if he's like 27 now, you want 28 or whatever, wants to see out his best years.
Yeah.
Is he going to go to?
No, Harry Kane.
Another Champions League team or whatever. Who are interested.
Where success is imminent. That's what I think he needs to do. If he's going to jump ship now, it needs to be jumping ship to somewhere where success
needs to be up rather than guaranteed. Down. Like it's not a time for Kane to be almost investing in his career, which would be it's a time to kind of reap the benefits of it. I feel
already so far, so it's kind of
I think Newcastle, the thing is, it always does take time. It took time, I think, for City. It really took time for City to kind of establish that position. Chelsea came in, and within sort of 2 to 3 years they were there, but then it wasn't ever really like a complete league dominance with Chelsea. There was they'd win it once or twice, and then it wasn't like a consistent thing. And now they're sort of up and down, up and down, up and down. It took a while for City. I think for a team now breaking into that top six, and bear in mind Leicester and Leicester have done it near enough without a big money investment. Liverpool have done it quite cleverly through selling players off and buying players that are about to sort of level up or whatever. It has, and obviously selling well and buying well off the selling in the last couple of years. I think it's going to be interesting to see if you can throw money at it. Which is the first time it's happened since City, where they just went money, throw things at it until it works.
Yeah. And it's also crazy that if they come in, they'll be instantly like, what is it, like 58 times richer than City or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Is that how much? Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, if you're talking that much money, you could put people on like $1 million a week. Would $1 million a week tempt to Harry Kane?
Yeah, of course it would. But ultimately, I think
you look at it, but I also think it's not about the money.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
it's not about the money, and then there's $1 million a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
You could literally play a season and never have to worry about life ever again.
Yeah, but then he'd still have no trophies, and he'd ultimately, I think players want trophies, don't they? Most players.
I don't know.
He could buy a trophy factory if he wanted to.
He could literally have the trophy for most money made.
Yeah. There you go. You got personal trophies. But no, I think ultimately it doesn't matter. As I can say from an Arsenal fan, just this season, it doesn't matter which players you have, how good they're supposed to be. I was going to say the manager, and I almost said if the Emery is bad. So there you go. That just shows my Freudian slip. If the manager's bad, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think the first thing they need to address is manager, and that's no disrespect to Steve Bruce because he's done a hell of a job with that team. But if they're looking to them,
he's actually on his best season this season, isn't he? He's been
it would be so unfair. I'd be tempted to say, look, he's never had a budget before. Give him a decent budget and just see what he can do with it, just out of respect, because he has done such a good job.
I mean, that's what they did at City as well, isn't it? They just kicked Mark Hughes out. This old class of. And
Chelsea just kicked Ranieri out, didn't they?
Yeah. And then
that's it. It's a cutthroat business. I can't see them having much sentimentality going into it.
It's because there are these Premier League managers that have been here forever, like the Allardyces, the Steve Bruces, the Mark Hugheses.
They're on like the magic roundabout, and they just get on and take it off, get sacked, get back
relegated,
off,
get relegated, get promoted.
Do a little bit of punditry, then take another like relegated team. It's just there's so many of them.
Who else is in that bracket? Because you've obviously Mark Hughes, Steve Bruce, and
you used to have Alan Pardew in there.
Chris Hughton,
Martin O'Neill, maybe. But he's on the international circuit now.
I think a few have fallen off now, but
Moisey, he's virgin on that.
I mean, he just goes back and forward between three teams. He'll be our manager next season. He's just on like a jump around.
Nigel Pearson, he's on there. There's quite a few.
There's been a few over the years as well. I always find it quite fun. As you said, that magic roundabout.
Do you listen to Atletico Mints?
I do not. No.
No, I can't say I have. No. Why?
No. It's like a football kind of podcast. But they kind of
talk about
football. And they've got one of them is this. They've got this story, and they've literally got that. And they've got Steve Bruce, Pardew, a few others, and they've just got this club where they talk to each other. It's like, I've nearly ruined the club. I'll be out of here soon. Get my payoff. I'll be out. And then they just talk about it.
Honestly, I do wonder if they do chat behind the scenes, because I've heard a few things. I've heard Harry Redknapp say. It's like these guys kind of know when they're going to get sacked and who their successor is going to be.
It's written. Like you can see it.
Yeah, of course.
How often in football does the kind of thing everyone thinks is going to happen not happen in regards to recruitment? It usually does.
Oh yeah. Well, it's because we're relying on what's drip fed from the media. So
it's interesting to look at. I mean, at the moment in the Premier League, you do have. I mean, you actually look at the array of managers that are involved. It's quite something to look at.
I mean, you compare it to the Bundesliga and the amount of young managers they seem to be embracing and supporting. I would really like us to go down that route, even if it's just to a smaller extent, because the younger British managers...
They just won't do it though, will they? Because the risk and the money is so high of dropping out of the Premiership.
That's the thing,
Someone who knows it, who's been in before, who's a big name. And they won't kind of... I mean, United got Solskjaer, I suppose, but it's kind of... That was a big risk.
That was supposed to be a stopgap, wasn't it? And then he sort of just proved himself.
Yeah. I can't really think anyone else they don't really...
Just us at the moment. And Chelsea as well, of course, with Lampard.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
So, I think, Arteta's Spanish, but he's adopted. No, I think it would be good to see. I think that the more former players we see going into management, obviously Gerrard, I think, is going to be knocking at the Anfield door within the next couple of years, if not.
But it's also funny how those lot have also skipped the smaller, the working their way up.
I mean, which is what the Steve Bruces and the Mark Hughes all did.
He's kind of worked his way up, but Lampard went straight to a Championship team. Gerrard went straight to one of the top teams in Scotland, I suppose, and then Arteta went straight kind of assistant manager and then straight to Arsenal. Was that? And there's no kind of working their way up from the kind of
literally, as I just said, like the Steve Bruces, the Mark Hugheses, all of these ones that would originally have that originally were like big players that have then gone, I'm going to learn management from the bottom and then go like Div 3, Div 2, Div 1.
Go from like Colchester to like Leyton Orient to...
I mean, there has been a few of those. Like Sol Campbell was at Macclesfield, I think it was recently, and then...
Yeah, but he did all, didn't he?
Well, they had some terrible problems. I think they were on the verge of doing a Bury and just going completely bust. But, I think he's still not been paid for his time there. But then Tony Adams went abroad, and who was the other one that went abroad and started doing?
What's his name?
Joey Barton in France and Steve McLaren in Holland.
That's the one, yeah.
That was it. Joey Barton's one was obviously I think his was tongue in cheek when he did the French accent in the press conference. He's well aware of his sense of humour.
Wasn't he managing Fleetwood and he got arrested?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
that might be the most Joey Barton story I've ever heard. He was managing Fleetwood and got arrested.
Everything about that is very Joey Barton.
An interesting point on this as well. When you look at all of those managers that were ex-top players that did kind of build themselves up through the sort of ranks, how many of them ever actually did stuff with big teams and won things? When you actually look at it,
from an English perspective, I can't think of too many, because you had, not English but British. You had Kenny Dalglish at Liverpool, but that obviously didn't end very well. But you go abroad and look at Zidane. He hasn't fared too badly.
He's gone straight there, hasn't he? Like Deschamps as well for France.
It definitely seems to be more of an internationally kind of. It seems to be easier to do it if it's an international thing, because I can't think of a single kind of Premier League player that's done exceptional, as in who has won things as managers that have worked their way up from the bottom.
I think the thing is, though, is often when you go from playing into coaching, the most naturally talented players aren't usually going to make the best coaches, because they've never had to explain how to do something, or they've never had it explained to them. They just knew how to do it. So for them to try and relate to someone who's on an inferior skill level might be quite difficult. I mean, you look at the best managers in the Premier League at the moment. Mourinho never. I mean, he's lucky to get in that category at the moment, but he was a translator when he started out, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Klopp wasn't much of a player, I don't think.
I mean, the best example
Guardiola
of this
was good. To be fair,
best example of this is obviously Fergie, who was a striker at Rangers, I think it was.
Was it Aberdeen?
It might have been Aberdeen. I don't know where he played. He played in Scotland somewhere. I should know that.
Yeah.
But he was decent, but he was never like a world beater. And you look at like some of the best managers. You're very right in it. The best players don't make the best managers, apart from Zidane.
Good example.
Yeah.
Apart from Zidane, who seems to be half decent.
Apart from Zidane, yeah. But then, like, say, if you look at, I was looking at France the other day actually, and they've got like Vieira's the manager over there now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's at Nice.
He's at Nice. Who else is there? Oh, Andre Villas-Boas is there as well, actually. He's Marseille.
Oh, yes, Marseille. He's on a resurgence with Marseille.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's talk of like a second AVB wave, actually, of him going to one of the big clubs. So that'd be interesting. See, he's definitely going to have a point to prove.
I remember when AVB first appeared, it was almost like this, oh my God, there's this new type of manager. He's a modern manager.
New Mourinho.
Well, he was Mourinho's assistant as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's it. He was the understudy. He was like the apprentice turned master, and it was supposed to be like this great story, but then he forgot that he was managing Tottenham.
Chelsea. I thought he got a bit of a hard deal at Spurs as well sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, football was awful at some points, but then there was just a few other things like around it that he had to deal with. Like, and he's come out after things, been like, I could not work with Levy as well. He's like, all the players I just didn't get, which is classic Levy.
I mean, we've got about 15 minutes left on this, so I think what we should try to do is kind of round everything up by heading back to the Premier League. It is sort of prediction time, I think, is a good way of putting this. I think if we look at the realistically, if we look at what we think the top four will be, I think it's going to be quite a good one to look at. And then if we look at the teams we think are going to get relegated based on obviously the form beforehand, and now the fact that there has, to an extent, there's been an extended break, but now it's got to the point where it is a period. It's almost lethargic to a point where the players are now going to be, they're at practice essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just bringing up the table now. So
yeah, same. I'm going to get it up on my phone.
You've got of course Liverpool. They're just ahead by a measly 25 points. Not too shabby. It feels weird to say that. Like this stage of the season, 25 points is unheard of, isn't it? So then they're on 82. You've got City on 57, Leicester 53, and Chelsea in fourth, just about with 48. United 45, Wolves on 43, sharing that with Sheffield, and then Tottenham 41 and us 40.
Because I remember saying, like, just before it finished, that if anyone goes on a run from Arsenal to, like, from out there, that's like anyone from 9th could go on a decent run, could get Champions League.
Yeah.
You know.
And the thing we forgot as well, what's happening with City?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like,
it's been completely
get fifth. You know, if City aren't allowed in, you might even only have to get fifth. You know, so
I think that's considering. I think it was going to get postponed anyway or delayed, whatever the jargon is. But I think with what's happened, it's all but certainly going to get postponed.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking at this here. The maddest thing. In fourth, there are, as you said, there's only 8 points separating 9th from fourth.
Yeah,
fourth.
Exactly.
That's 3 wins.
Not much.
That's not much at all. I mean, the thing is, you could go down to 11th, and then there's only 9 points. There's only 9 points.
Yeah. But
Palace,
from 11th, you've got Burnley and Palace. You know, so
yeah. I mean, it's a very bizarre table, and obviously the bottom half of the table looks. We'll get into the bottom half of the table at the minute, but if I'm being 100% honest, I think out of this scenario, I think United are the best. Look the best out of that bunch to hit that top 4. If I'm being completely honest, and I normally wouldn't say that, but I think with Pogba coming back, the form they were in beforehand, I think they probably are the team that look the best to carry on.
Yeah, that's true. I'm kind of like, I know, like, it's Spurs, but it wouldn't surprise me because we've got a full squad, but it wouldn't surprise me if Mourinho just came back and shithoused his way through those 9 games to come, you know, to get like 8 wins out of 9 or something, you know, just shithouses the whole thing through.
The thing is now, when you look at things like the players' fitness, the home advantage or lack thereof, there's so many variables now to consider which just weren't even thought of as a thing before. So I think predictions are going to be very, very difficult. You guys have been quite optimistic with your 2. I'll try and balance it out somewhat. I don't expect much from these last remaining games.
You know, like, it wouldn't even surprise me if Arsenal went on a run as well. You know, the top teams, the top 5, like Liverpool, City, Chelsea, United, and Spurs, all went on like a massive run, all won pretty much most of their games. I don't know how many times they got to play each other, but
we forgot about Leicester there as well, and Leicester are resilient as anyone.
Yeah. No, we've got City away first up, and I think now is probably the best time possible to play that fixture because it's obviously away. May not count for anything, and
then, you know, like, if you win that, the pressure goes all on City as well because they've lost their first game and they're like,
So
are we thinking that City and Leicester could drop? I can't see City or Leicester dropping out of that top 4 at this stage.
Well, I think Leicester are kind of, you know, Leicester, they weren't on that great a run before it finished, and they were kind of dropping off a bit anyway. Like, I think they won like 2 games in this year or something like that, didn't they? They went like 3 months without winning. So, and I'm just looking at the classic big teams who've kind of been in the top 4 will kind of start off. I mean, Leicester might start off, but, you know, I don't know if they've got the kind of players to get the kind of the big team mentality. I don't know.
I mean, Sheffield are 10 points behind Leicester.
Yeah.
And that's something 10 years ago we'd all been going, what?
Yeah. You know, because I mean, and because it's been so long, I just don't know whether it will just feel like a new season and it will revert to type. Do you know what I mean? Like, Sheffield United will go back to being like a relegation kind of lower team. You know, Leicester will go back to being kind of Europa kind of standard team, and the Champions League teams will kind of be, I don't know if it'll kind of revert back to that or.
Well, I think all momentum has undoubtedly been lost.
Yeah.
And as the only unbeaten team in the Premier League in 2020, that's quite worrying as an Arsenal fan.
Yeah. Like say, Sheffield United had great momentum,
Exactly.
So if they can get that, they had and they obviously got a great team spirit. But if they can't get that momentum back, then they're going to kind of,
It is going to be kind of like trying to push a truck up a hill, I think, to begin with, for a lot of teams, because you've kind of got to go. It's almost like the teams have been lifted off like a is it what's it called? Is it an escalator? Not an escalator. The one that goes forwards.
Travelator.
That it's almost like that's what the Premier League is, and everyone's been kind of lifted off it, and then they're just going to get dropped, not like put back down, dropped onto it and go run, run, and you have to run twice as fast because there's so many more games to play in such a short period of time. So to see if teams find their balance,
it's like there is going to be a hell of a lot of games in a short time, so there is probably going to be some injuries somewhere as well. And if anyone picks up like kind of coronavirus or whatever, then they have to go out for like 2 weeks. They're going to miss 3 games.
Yeah, you reckon there's going to be any sabotage and go and give it to Aguero or something? Go and try and host some Rona to him.
It wouldn't surprise me, as we're saying. Football fans are very unusual people.
Yeah,
yeah.
So I don't know, man. And then if you look at the relegation, I mean, for me, if you put in that same kind of theory for me that the season's starting over again, hang on, what points are we on?
Norwich are on 21, Villa are on 25, Bournemouth are on 27, Watford are on 27, but they're above on 1 goal difference. West Ham are on 27 as well, who are also above. So there's 3 teams who all, over the course of 3 goal difference, could be in relegation as it stands, and then Brighton are 2 points ahead of that.
I'd say up to 13th maybe. Newcastle might.
I mean, Southampton. To be fair, Southampton are 7 points in front. Newcastle are 8 points in front. I think Everton. I think they're safe. I don't think any team's going to make up 10 points at the bottom.
I think probably Southampton and Newcastle are shouldn't do it from there, and probably 90% safe. They probably but anything below that, you just don't know. And I was thinking of Palace, because Palace traditionally have slow starts to the season, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and again, that's a team that relies heavily on that Selhurst Park crowd. So see how they're going to be affected by it. I mean, that's the case with a lot of
they're 1 point off the 40-point margin, which is that's the benchmark for not getting relegated, really, isn't it?
You'd like to think they'd scrape over from there. I mean, Brighton as well. They're in a bit of bother.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can swerve it.
I mean, Brighton, you look at Brighton as well. I mean, they're 2 points ahead of this.
Have you seen Brighton's fixtures?
I haven't seen Brighton's fixtures. No, is it looking dreadful?
I can't actually find a fixture list at the moment. They've deleted it from everywhere.
Let me have it. I'm going to see if I can find it.
Because I mentioned it in our last podcast, and
you did, didn't you? Yeah, you said they were in for a bit of a tricky run.
Well, I've got the next 3 games, which is Burnley. We're not even going to say home or away because we don't know what's happening. They've got Burnley, Newcastle, and Southampton.
Okay.
That's their next 3. So there's points that can be taken there. They can take points from those games quite easily.
Yeah.
Well, not easily.
A couple of 6-pointers.
I mean, more Newcastle and Southampton, I'd say. The Burnley game's going to be a tough one.
I literally can't find the fixtures either. Where are they?
I can see the next 3 on the BBC website. If you click on the team and then click on results, it will show you the next 3.
Okay. But Brighton were my disappointment of the season, actually, because they showed so much promise initially under Graham Potter, playing some real good free-flowing football, but I think it just gets to a point where the calibre of player really
it does depend on the player.
affects what you're doing, and they were found wanting.
It's a shame with Brighton because obviously living in Brighton, we want Brighton to be in the Premier League. It's a good thing. It adds to the city. It adds to the buzz of the city as well. There's no denying that on match day. There is a feeling of when there's a big sort of home win. You can feel it around the city, which is quite cool. And obviously it's quite new to a lot of people who live in Brighton, having that kind of thing of it being this almost like big deal. And it's a game that is watched around the world now. You know what I mean? It's an interesting thing, socially more than anything else. It's also interesting how many friends I do have that are and always have been Brighton fans now. which is always interesting.
Yeah, well, it's always going to happen, well, it's always going to happen, isn't it? The woodwork crawlers. But no, the stadium's fantastic as well. It's a Premier League stadium.
Have you been to the stadium?
Yeah. I went there in my second year of living in Brighton, so I need to go back there actually.
I went there for an England friendly. I think it was. Was it an England friendly? But I mean, an England friendly or a Scotland friendly?
They've had a couple there. Yeah, I think they might have had Brazil there at one point. They had one of the big boys there because I was
interesting
going,
actually.
but...
Speaking of Brazil, I went to see Scotland versus Brazil at the Emirates, where Neymar first announced himself. That the game where Neymar literally went flying, diving in a friendly.
Yeah.
And since that day, the sight of him makes my blood boil from this day.
Yeah, so Brighton, they've still got left to play. Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, Man United, Leicester, Southampton, Burnley,
so
Newcastle,
the entire top half of the table,
basically. So it's kind of like
it's a tough ask.
Yeah, but I think West Ham.
Graham Potter needs to turn to Harry Potter, I think.
Yeah.
I think the saving grace for them is I think they've got 3 games that they can build up to it with. They've got at least a 3-game sort of ballast where they can kind of go, all right, we can try and build up a bit of momentum, not going straight in against the big boys, and kind of get a bit of a momentum rolling off those first 3.
Yeah, I mean that's always going to be the key thing. It's who can initially build up that momentum to get the ball rolling and then progress on for those last remaining games.
There we go. Right then, we've nearly run out of time. We've got about a minute and a half or so left on this. So, guys, this has been fun. I definitely think we can do this again. I think it does kind of work as a format, and as more kind of news develops, I think it'll be good to carry on doing this. So we've been live on Cupcan TV YouTube channel. Listeners, please do hit that subscribe button. I like saying this bit to new people. I always get to see people smile. But please do hit subscribe on it. Hit subscribe on the channel, hit like on the video as well. Let us know if you agree or disagree with what we're saying. It'd be quite cool to see the opinions on it. So, what we're going to do is we're going to finish up there. Don't go anywhere. Keep it locked, and we will see you all. Just need to find the advert to run at the end of the show. We'll see you all very soon.
Stay safe.